Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Untitled Car Project. We are on show 50. Today, we've got Brad Spring in studio. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Might recognize that name. I'm Rob Spring.
Jeremy Molt.
I'm Grant Gonzalez.
Today, we're gonna talk about some dealership stuff. Brad works at a dealership. He's a mechanic, and we're gonna quiz him.
Yay.
It's gonna be back into school, but it's gonna be a pop quiz all the way through.
Oh man, the seat is starting to feel really warm.
It's getting hot, right?
Yeah.
Before we get going, special thanks to Chad, the C10 truck nerd. In his last drop on YouTube, he wore one of our sweatshirts, and it was pretty cool. Wore it for a good first portion of his little I don't know, what was it, 20 or 30 minute.
It was a 20-minute video.
20-minute video, yeah. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, ironically enough, the week he did that, I was wearing his shirt during our show.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if you noticed it, but I did, yeah.
Well, we don't have video, so I didn't see it. So, shout out to Chad. Thanks for doing that. And, if you guys haven't checked out his show, look up the C10 Truck Nerd on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Really good content. I like watching his videos.
Oh, they're super good.
They are super good.
Yeah.
What else we got? Make sure to follow us on social media. Make sure to follow the podcast if you're not already. Hit like, share with your friends. Share it in your text chat groups and all the social media things.
Share it with your enemies.
And hit subscribe on whatever platform
If you really don't like them, you got people you don't like, just send them the podcast. Mm-hmm. Say you have to listen to this. Reach out to us, untitledcarproject@gmail.com or on Messenger. And don't just say hi. Actually have something to say, because I'm not going to respond if you're just like, hi.
I do that all the time to you, though.
And do I respond?
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, if you want to call Grant, we'll give you his phone number.
There you go.
You can call him
Absolutely. Shoot me a message. I'll respond with Grant's phone number. Text this guy. He'll talk to you
Like,
for
hello.
hours.
Talk at you.
For hours.
Exactly.
Just keep on going. Okay. All the formalities out of the way. Mm-hmm. Brad, how's it going? How's working at a dealership? Let's start there. What's it like working at a dealership?
Working at a dealership, there's a certain amount of consistency that comes with that, because there's always going to be new vehicles with new problems, and there's always going to be warranty work and recalls and things like that. And so there's a certain amount of stability that comes with that.
Yeah.
But there's also a different amount of pressure to do things a certain way, the way that the brand wants you to do it. And, yeah.
You mean you can't backyard mechanic it?
Dun, dun, dun. Sometimes, but it kind of depends on the situation and the circumstances. Yeah. I mean, I think that was a huge, wake-up call for me going into the industry, was just like, everybody's just winging it, I thought, I'm going to go into this industry and I'm going to learn all the things that I've been doing wrong on my own, all the tricks and the magic of the trade. And it's like, no, it's just like backyard mechanic to an exponential amount. Everybody's got their own way of doing things, their own little tricks. And
that's really surprising, because I figured they've got basically a manual and a set way. This is how you do it. Mm-hmm. They know the most efficient way to solve any problem on the vehicle, and this is how you do it. It's not like that, huh?
I mean, to a degree. Yeah. There's we have special tools that you can't easily access as like a home DIY mechanic and things like that. But even then, sometimes they outsource all these manuals to another company to put all of this down. So it's not even necessarily accurate at all times.
Oh,
yeah.
Helpful.
But the best practice that I've found is go through the manual and do it exactly by the book the first time, and then you can figure out, I don't need to do that step. I can cut that.
You can get around it.
Yeah. And you figure out what works for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you, but you mentioned the pressures of what are the pressures of working at a dealership? Is it time? Because everybody's, that's what you get paid on, basically.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Are you flat rate or are you by hour?
I'm flat rate.
Okay.
Yeah. I started out as hybrid, which was still the incentive is there to book out hours with
Yeah.
the jobs that you're doing, but flat rate, yeah, it's really high pressure, but warranty jobs they don't pay well. You have to really be on your game, and most of the time, the first time you do a warranty job, you're not going to make time on it. You have to do it a couple times before you can actually.
Yeah, it's the learning curve.
Yeah. And so that's what's different about warranty versus customer pay or being an independent place is like that warranty dynamic is they're going to pay you a lot less to do that job. But that being said, like once you are good at what you do, you can make those times and like it does provide that consistency of work, like I was saying. But I think there's a lot of changes happening in that as well. Like sometimes I get like these old airbag recalls, these old cars. They most of the time these people just want free stuff, but they're cars from like 1995, and they bring it in, and it's like it's got a recall on it, and it's just the passenger airbag or something like that. But it'll pay out a lot more, so you can tell there's been a vast change in the dealership and how much they're paying for these warranty jobs, and they're really clamping down on how much they're giving out, you know. But I also heard something about New York having some sort of mandate as to like how much dealerships are paying under these warranty jobs and some sort of enforcement of the pay being more fair. So there might be a shift in the future.
So a minimum, maximum kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to pay less than X number for a warranty repair or something like that.
Yeah.
So when you do those, you know, like you said, you go through a learning curve. Do you get kind of pigeonholed with that stuff if you're the guy that's done 2 or 3 of them, or like, hey, he's done several of them already, we can actually make some money on this, or like
a little bit, yeah. There's definitely a little bit of that, but there's also, I mean, there is freedom to choose your work. I mean, with the dealer that I'm working at, anyways, you know, we have kind of a central dispatching guy who's handing out the work, and there are definitely some really picky people who will be like, nah, I'm not gonna put my hands on that. And
really?
So you don't have a service writer that's allocating your work. You guys get to choose it from a list.
We do.
Okay.
And that's his role, is he's kind of like overseeing like who the work is going to, and that everything is like moving through the system.
Okay.
And that's kind of new for us. In the past, it has been like each advisor has like a set team of technicians, and now it's all being dispatched all across the board. But you know, that being picky comes at a cost too. And that's like reducing your skill in different areas, and it reduces the availability of work to you too. So I'm not one who typically tends to turn things down. And sometimes it is to my detriment because it's just shitty work.
Shouldn't have taken this project.
Yep.
This sucks.
But there's always something to learn in that, and then the next time I come across that, it doesn't feel that way necessarily.
Yeah.
So.
You either get better at it, you figure out the tricks to make it not such a bad job, or you know to turn it down.
Yeah,
One of the
exactly.
two.
Yeah.
Do you think dealerships, especially in the shop, you know, the maintenance of vehicles or the repair of vehicles, do you think they have a bad rap?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're known for just like ripping people off, and they tend to be the most expensive route. You know, if you don't have some sort of warranty coverage on your vehicle, it's like our labor rates are astronomical in comparison to others. But there are give and takes to all of that. I mean, you know, there is still something to be said about OEM parts and having access to special tools and the specific data that we have available to us. And just like the warranty that we apply to the vehicles after we've done the repair, even if you're not necessarily getting a good technician, it's like we're held liable for doing that job once you've brought it to us.
Basically it's covered.
Yeah.
If that same issue persists or whatever, you have to basically take care of it.
Yeah, yeah. And if you bring it to Joe Schmo, you don't know at all what you're getting. The parts could be
10-foot
bad
warranty.
quality to begin with, and you come back and they're like, man, it's not my fault. So yeah.
I fixed it once. You drove out of here with it.
Yeah.
You made it to the end of the driveway. It's your problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just such a different landscape of what it used to be 20 years ago. I mean, because there's so many failure points on vehicles now, and it's just bound to happen, and things are so expensive to replace. I mean, anybody that's buying a new or like a certified pre-owned vehicle, I'm just like, it is worth it to buy the extended warranty. Yeah. You know, like the amount that you're paying in your deductible is going to be far less than what you will pay out of pocket to get those repairs done, and you just never know what's going to break. It might not even be your fault necessarily, maintenance or whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, especially since newer cars are making it harder to, like, you can't replace a small part. Like, I think it's Nissan and their transmissions now make it so if a CDVT fails, you can't get a specific belt for it. You have to buy a whole new transmission.
Right. Yeah. It's and that's the other thing that's changed in the landscape greatly too is we don't necessarily repair parts because the cost of labor exceeds the cost of that part.
Yep.
And it's frustrating to see that much waste and to see these things that you could potentially fix, but at the same time, like, I understand the argument too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is rough. How do you know? How does the general public know? And maybe there's not a good answer. If they're being taken advantage of, or if they feel like they're being ripped off, like I think going into a dealership is for general public pretty unknown. Like, you check in at the counter and you hand them your keys and you're like, okay, here we go. Have no idea what this is going to add up to. Even though they may give you an estimate or quote, whatever, they get into it and, oh, well, all of a sudden there's this, that, and the other thing. And we found a leaky this. And, they're calling you on the phone in a couple hours going, oh yeah, your estimate's no good anymore. It's $1,300 more. And we have no idea. We can't go in and look. We can't watch what they're doing.
Well, especially since dealerships will try to upcharge for most of the point.
Yeah.
Well, it would seem like
upsell.
Well, yeah, anyways.
Yeah. No, I
Some
mean,
of them
it's
do,
a valid question, and it's difficult. It's so nuanced, because, I mean, there's even if you're going to a dealership that may be solid, there's maybe a tech that's like trying to upsell things that don't necessarily need to be upsold, or there's always going to be people everywhere that are going to be trying to like skirt around you and just make money off of you, and it's so hard to tell. A huge thing that I've been seeing that it seems to be helping with that confidence is people are doing video inspections, and they're actually taking pictures and videos of the fail points or the evidence of the vehicle that is like, this is the problem, this is what we're seeing, so you can see for yourself, like, this is why we're recommending that.
Like the mechanics are doing that for the customer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that mandated by the dealership, or is that just something they are doing to kind of help prove themselves that they're not taking advantage?
It's typically, being enforced by the dealership. There are some techs here and there who are more avid to be a part of that. I know even for me, it's kind of intimidating to just like take out your phone and take a video and be like, here's everything that's going on. Because I don't interface with customers on a daily basis. And I'm like, oh, okay, somebody's going to watch this video of me talking about their car. But I definitely see the value in it. And I think it's a helpful way to like build that confidence and that trust relationship. And it's hard. I mean, you just have to like ask questions and kind of inquire about like, okay, well, why do I need that? Or like, can we wait on that? Is there really, how is this going to help me? What is this going to prevent in the future? Mm-hmm. And hopefully, you have a good advisor that's like reading the notes that the tech is providing about why this failed or why this needs replaced.
And hoping the tech actually gave good notes.
Right.
Yeah.
And not just parts broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ran when parked. I don't know.
Yeah. and that's so frequent. But yeah, it's just like if you feel like you're getting scammed, then go somewhere else and see what somebody else has to say. Maybe they're gonna say the same thing, or even just go online and chat GPT, put that information in there. Yeah. You never know what you
sure. Is it a common failure, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
from somebody that doesn't work at a dealership, I would like to believe that most of the guys that work at the dealership that are actually fixing the cars don't want to put extra work into it, right? Mm-hmm. They want to find out what's wrong. They want to replace that part, and they want to get it the hell out so they can get paid.
Yeah.
Right. And not do a whole bunch of extra diagnosis to try to, scam you for another $100.
Yeah. No, and I think that's valid, but I think the concern comes into play when it's like fluid exchanges or like brake jobs that are being recommended too early, or it's those maintenance services that we do make good money or hours on those kind of jobs, and when you're flat rate and there's pressure to like make your hours for every pay period, you do want to make those sales, and so I have seen where either the advisor or the technician are adding on extra services that the customer doesn't necessarily need just to try to make their quota for the month. And I think that's where the concern of the scamming comes in.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, conversation you and I had quite some time ago was about having return customers. And is it really common for you to build a relationship with a customer, whether that's a commercial account or even an individual customer, and them to come in and ask for a certain tech specifically?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a unique thing that I have been blessed to be able to create with a few like customers. But it takes a special kind of person, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I take a lot of pride in my work, and not every tech feels that way. A lot of people are just coming in for a paycheck, and that's fair. Like, it is a job at the end of the day,
right?
But it can be difficult to create that kind of relationship because of the advisor boundary of like you're always communicating through a third party.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes it does boil down to those things of like doing the backyard mechanic fix to get somebody back on the road, right. Like, and maybe they come in and they're low on money. It's a customer pay job. And like, you're like, okay, we really need to replace this component, but I think maybe, we do this wiring fix or whatever, and like that'll get you back on the road for a little while until you can afford the thing. And they're just like super grateful that you found a cheap way to get them back on the road. Yeah. And they want to come back, and they're going to ask for you.
I'm surprised you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, I can imagine, as long as it's not safety concern.
Yeah.
It's not a safety related item that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it not being an issue.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think of an example quick off the top of my mind, but I think commercial accounts are, definitely a big thing. I recently had an account come in, and Les Schwab had tried to charge them like out the wazoo. They wanted to change their calipers like when they needed a brake job, and we quoted them super fairly, and it was cheaper at the dealership to get their brakes done than at Les Schwab.
Right.
And they didn't have an appointment or anything, and I was able to knock it out same day and get them back on the road, and they were super grateful, and they're like, oh, we're bringing all of our trucks to you. And so
that's cool.
Yeah, super cool. And I mean, it's super great to be able to just be like, yes, I'll take the work. I will do that. I will prioritize it. And then, you see this reward of like this, they're grateful, and they're going to bring you more work. And those commercial accounts, they're really good accounts to have because they need their vehicles to be on the road. So if you recommend stuff and you're being honest about it, they're going to approve it and they're going to keep coming back.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, and that's the thing about the return customer, right? You've built a good relationship and they're going to keep bringing stuff to you as long as you treat them right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really important. I could see that.
Yeah, so the tire companies,
Yeah.
when you take your vehicle in there to do the brakes, they will not guarantee it unless you do all of the parts. You know, even if you don't need a set of calipers,
Yeah, they do it
they
anyway.
want to do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's an upsell,
wild.
for
Yeah,
sure.
it is an upsell.
I've had Schwab try to do that for me too. I'm just like, no, put it back together. I'll take it home and do it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until that recently happened that they try to replace calipers too, because your calipers don't need to be replaced as like a regular maintenance item.
Not that often.
That was crazy to me to find that out. Yeah.
And then, you've got the option of actually rebuilding them instead if you're handy at all.
Yeah.
Or take them to somebody and have them rebuilt instead of replacing it. And you're weighing the options then, whether it's cheaper or not with labor and all that stuff. But
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, unless they're leaking,
that's their upside.
Right.
you don't need to
Or
replace
stuck or
Yeah.
whatever.
And that does happen.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's where they're trying to limit their liability. They don't want to put a caliper back on the road, or they've replaced rotors and pads. They put it out on the road, and then the caliper's really no good, and it sticks or something, and something goes wrong. So they're limiting their liability by replacing the whole
It's
thing.
weird that Schwab
It's a big
will
upsell,
do
though.
front and rear brakes, but then instead of doing all four once.
Oh, they'll do them
yeah, so
individually?
Well, not individual. They'll do them in pairs.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Front
but
to rear,
if
yeah.
from as much as they're going to the lengths to replace calipers and
Right.
everything else on the brake system, you would think they would say, "No, we're only doing all
All of
four."
them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So on the, I don't know where I want to go with topics next, but new cars, warranty stuff, or even just, not under warranty, but somebody comes in. To me, the most, the hardest things to troubleshoot is the electrical. Like, especially with all the new electronic components that are in all the cars. I mean, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
How difficult is that? Are those probably the most time-consuming kind of things to deal with?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say that that's where being at a dealership comes in the most handy, because we have so much resources as far as like wiring diagrams and like descriptions of operation, and as well as the classes that we take as to the way that our systems communicate and operate, to be able to have some sort of a baseline understanding to what we're getting into.
Yeah.
But, and this is the nice part where warranty does typically pay out with electrical stuff, is like you run actual time. And as long as your paperwork, your story, like it actually lines up with how much time you're asking for that it took you to diagnosis,
Yeah.
they will pay out.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to go through a process, and you have to outline that process. I did this, then I had to do this, and that led me to this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they understand that like electrical issues can be like
Nightmares.
nightmares.
Yeah.
And yeah, take hours upon hours to find the like cause of what the actual issue is, but so there is room for that. But I actually really enjoy that, especially under warranty, because when it comes to customer pay, like we tend to have to ask for a lot of diagnosis time up front, typically, 3 hours or more.
Yeah.
And that often involves asking for more time, and you feel bad, really, because you know that like the customer needs their vehicle to be fixed, but you need to be paid for your time fairly. And it's this battle of like, okay, I really want to get to the bottom of this, and I'm trying the best that I can, but I've used up all my time. Realistically, you would be using more of your time.
yeah.
So Yeah, the electrical systems, it seems like really daunting. Just with like you open a vehicle and you just see all of the modules and the like wires going everywhere, and you're like, oh, I don't even know where to begin.
No.
But
What's the longest you've ever worked on electrical diagnosis?
oh, probably like a week. I mean, yeah.
And it ended up being the ground underneath the seat.
It ended up being the main powertrain control module. Just needed replaced.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about modules, though, is like we're with that module specifically, anyways. It's like so rarely is it that I'm like hesitant to condemn it most of the time. But as time has gone on, I've like gained knowledge of what checks to make and like when to sooner call it and be like, no, yeah, let's just try to replace that. Because there's also a push-pull of like, okay, diagnosis is starting to cost this much. When do we start just pulling the trigger on replacing things and seeing if that fixes it?
Just doing a shotgun effect. Be like, sorry, what's going to stick?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I have been so hesitant in the past of like, I want to get it verified, like, this is going to fix it for sure. But then, like I was saying, there's that push-pull of like, okay, but how much time do I spend on this before it makes more sense to just start trying things and replacing things?
Yeah.
So in those instances, if you start replacing modules, whatever they are, and it doesn't fix it, you've sold that module, right? Because once you plug it in,
Yep.
what do you do with the one that you pulled out that is still good? Do you give it to the customer? That's a fair question. Because,
Hold on to it for troubleshooting.
well, I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
If you can, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, is that what you do with it? Because, yeah, if it's still good, that's a great thing to have in your toolbox. To be like, hey, I got one. Let's try it.
Yeah.
I know this one's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the circumstance. I guess if it was like under the customer's dime, then potentially I would be like, can we return this? Can we send this back? Like, can we actually get their money back? It wasn't the problem.
Right.
If it's under warranty, then probably just like ship the old one back and be like, that didn't fix it, and move on to the
So
next
they can
thing.
refurbish it or
Yeah.
whatever. So you can't really keep them in your toolbox and
Not under warranty. We have to return all parts under
Okay,
warranty. Yeah, but yeah, there have been cases where like I have kept parts. Like for example, there was a fuse box and it has an internal wiper relay, and like had to replace the whole fuse box just for that. But I know that everything else on there is good, so I can use that for other troubleshooting purposes.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, sometimes, I mean, not sometimes. Always the best method is just honesty with the
Oh,
customer.
for sure.
and-
yeah.
and-
Tell them I
yeah.
had to do this, but it turned out not to be the issue.
Yeah.
And it sucks, and everybody puckers a little bit because that's expensive.
Yep.
know?
Yeah. But it
I-
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be like, can I have those parts? I'm going to sell them on eBay.
Yeah.
like, I can recoup some of my money out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So do you find that electrical problems are hard to work on, or do you find it more harder when the customer is having to describe to you what it's doing and you have to replicate that?
Definitely that.
Yeah.
And that is something too that I've had to like budget my time on because I always want to believe the customer.
Yeah.
They bring their vehicle in for a concern, and I'm like, they've got a concern. Like, we have to figure it out. And I have had to kind of shift my mindset in that and be like, you know what? Sometimes there isn't a concern, and sometimes we just need to wait until the concern is more present to actually be able to find what it is. And yeah, I think like noises especially has been something that has left me scratching my head far more than electrical concerns.
Yeah. Especially when the customer is trying to, it's like, it makes a bibbity bobbity sound.
Yeah.
What's that? No.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's coming from back over here, over
Exactly.
my right shoulder when
Yeah. Well, and utilizing your resources too, communicating with the advisor more, like, and my service manager, I'm really grateful for. He was a tech before being a manager, and so he's really got that unlocked. But having them make sure that either the advisors or him are going for a ride with a customer to figure out where they can duplicate that noise and so that somebody who is in the dealership is like, I know what it sounds like. I know where you can go to make it sound like that. That's going to save everybody a lot of.
Even as a customer, that's super frustrating. You have this noise, but you can't make it repeat.
Yeah.
Because I know about the troubleshooting. If you can replicate it, you can fix it.
Yeah.
But if you can't replicate it, if it only happens randomly, you're so screwed.
Yeah.
You don't even, it's like going to the doctor. Well, it sometimes hurts when I do this, but not every time.
Yeah. Well, and that's just Murphy's Law, right? Yeah. And I've sat with customers in cars when they're like, well, of course, now that
It's not going to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I hate that.
But I've had that with electrical bugs too, where it's like, oh, the back windows won't roll up. And then I go get the car and I bring it up and the back windows rolled up and the radio turned on just fine for me. But I've got the magic touch,
Slam the door just right.
You recommend to customers who they have trouble explaining to what's happening or they can't replicate it to just like grab a GoPro and just keep it with you at all times, or take a video on your phone if it's starting to do what it's doing?
No, but I'm gonna take note of that.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that with me.
Because they're gonna be like, it only happens at a certain time. Like if it does that, grab your phone, record it, bring it. Any information is better than none.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It only does it first thing in the morning when I start it up and it's 36 degrees outside.
Yeah.
If it's 37, it's not going to do it. Okay, so take that car home.
Yeah.
Next time it's 36 degrees, record that shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Brad, it sounds like time management's a big thing at the dealership, correct?
Totally.
How do you guys manage time when it comes to tool trucks stopping by?
That's later on. I haven't got there yet.
Okay.
Okay, we'll hold back.
No, that's fine. We can go there.
Okay.
Because I was going to ask you, like, are you on first name basis with the tool truck guy?
No, I know both of them, but only because they're trying to sell me stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I've really resisted. I've seen firsthand the people that get into like major debt with these guys, and it's like you're not even making any money at that point. You're just paying it to the tool truck. And, the quality versus the amount that you're paying is just not really there. I think maybe, there was a time and place where the price that you were paying matched the quality that you were getting out of those trucks. But, now Harbor Freight has got their Icon line that really is like stacking up quite well. And even with, let's say I'm buying the cheapest of tools possible, and I have to replace it 3 times, like I'm probably still not paying the Snap-on premium.
Guaranteed you're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even at that, maybe you're buying the Icon because I use some of that stuff too. I think we all do. Even if you decide, all right, well, this tool doesn't really stack up. Maybe the fitment's not quite right or whatever. Then you go buy a Craftsman or a Husky or a, some other brand that's just like that medium level. You're still ahead of the game.
Yeah.
How the tool trucks used to always advertise it for us when I used to work at a dealership was the fact that they're there, you got the tool right then and there because you're in a job, you can't always leave to go do a
selling
warranty
convenience.
Claim. Exactly.
Yeah.
And in some regards that does make sense, but when you're saying paying like, Milwaukee Drill for $200 Impact versus $1,200 from Snap-on, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Well, and power tools are kind of a whole other ball game too. And I will say I have bought some things from the Cornwell truck, but everything that I bought I felt like was fairly priced, and but you're also there's a warranty behind it, and somebody who's consistently coming back to be able to maintenance those warranties too. So yeah.
What?
Well, at least they're coming back.
Yeah. Oh, that's a regular stop for those guys.
Don't get me on that story.
Yeah, they're on lockdown with that. What's your tool collection look like? Like personal versus stuff that you get from the dealership, or do you get specialty tools, or are all those borrowed? How's that work?
Yeah, the special tools thing from the dealership is things that are very specific to specific part installs. They're not your like just average box wrenches or ratchets or sockets or things like that. So you're supplying all of your own tools.
Sure. All your own hand tools.
Yeah, for sure. We have some technology things like for troubleshooting electrical, we have access to an oscilloscope, which is something that I actually use quite frequently, and that's a pretty powerful and very expensive tool.
Yeah.
Or we have a really fancy battery tester, and things like brake flush machines, like those kind of tools are provided for us.
Yeah.
But
Dealership owned.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's stuff that I have had to build up myself over time. And, if you have to borrow it from somebody more than twice, then you buy it for yourself.
That's fair. Yeah, no doubt. So you have your own bay, or do you work in different bays? Like, how does that work? So you have your big roller box in one specific area, basically?
Yeah. I'm actually really lucky because when I started at this dealership, I was apprenticing under the service manager, and I was sharing 2 stalls with him, and they're in a completely separate building from the rest of the dealership. So it's like own private little shop.
That's distracting.
Oh, it is amazing. I get to play my own music. Like, I don't necessarily have people bothering me. Now I kind of do, but we'll get to that. Yeah. But when he got the promotion to service manager, they didn't move me out of there, and I was already starting to go out onto my own. So it was just like, well, those are your bays now. And
Nice.
So I just inherited that space, and yeah, it was super awesome. And I have 2 of the only heavy duty racks in the shop. One rack is a 12,000 pound capacity, the other one's 20,000. So I am able to work on all of the big rigs and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Wow, I hadn't realized that you were still in those bays, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
I got to ask, what kind of toolbox do you got in those bays?
It's a Husky.
It's a Husky?
Yeah. Yeah. It was the most budget friendly, and man, I got to say, it's held up really well. I love that thing. It's got the wood top on it. Yeah. And it actually ratchets up, so it's adjustable standing desk height.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. So I've got my computer and everything set up on top of there, and
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's go back to people bringing stuff in. I kind of wanted to know how. It seems like most of the people bringing stuff in are warranty stuff, or they've got obviously something broken or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do people bring in vehicles just for their projects? Like, I got this is what I want to do with my vehicle. You're the dealer on this type of vehicle. Can you do it?
Yeah. Yes. It's much more rare.
Yeah.
It's so enjoyable when it does happen, though.
Yeah.
So we're saying that they want to take it beyond factory spec. You guys can do that?
Yes. Yeah. As long as there's no warranty limiting that kind of project, then yeah, by all means. And I mean, Mopar is they're advocates for you upgrading your vehicles, and there's plenty of aftermarket Mopar parts to support that, lift kits and intakes and all those sorts of things. So I mean, yeah, as long as it's not under warranty and we're it's under the customer's dime, we're totally able to do all sorts of upgrades. And we've had people come in to have superchargers installed, and I've done cam and lifters on a truck before, and sometimes it's just tonneau covers or side steps or things like that, but those are enjoyable projects because those customers are always just excited.
They're getting some cosmetic upgrades. They're they're happy about it.
Yeah.
They're not doing it because they have to.
Right.
Yeah, I think that makes.
What's been the most badass thing you had to do in terms of that?
That's a great question.
I think a supercharger sounds pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, that wasn't me. I didn't get to do that one. No, yeah. Well, I want to say, so there's a customer that we have. This kind of applies, not really. He's got a AV, American Expedition Vehicles. They've transformed several like Wranglers into like kit cars essentially, and they had this one that they did back in the day where they would put the Hemi 6.4 into a Wrangler.
Okay.
And so they had like a whole kit listed out of how you could do it yourself, or they would sell the vehicles already ready to go. They've already made all the adjustments. And we had this customer who has one of those vehicles, and it had 185,000 miles on it, and it was like ticking internal failures. And he was like, I still want this. I want it to be exactly how it is. Let's just put a new 6.4 in it. Mm-hmm. And he just loves that thing. It's his baby, and he had us put a new engine in it, and he's just been a super loyal customer and just a super fun guy, and that Wrangler is so fun to drive. Nice. I mean, that much power in such a like light vehicle, is like.
Yeah. Is it pretty similar to the Wrangler with the 392 in it?
Yeah, and actually, that's what inspired them to come out with the 392 is because that AV partnership.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, he must drive that thing all the time with 185,000 miles on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, he bought it with 170,000 miles and then did the swap.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Could be.
Yeah.
He's well loved that vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Says something about it too, though. If it went that far, I mean, yeah, you got to do maintenance and all that, but 185 that's mileage.
Yeah, it's pretty good before having like any and that's to say like it probably would have been a savable engine, but again, the whole like labor versus just swapping the engine was like it didn't play out. I mean, I think he bought some sort of certified like crate engine that ended up being way less than us to tear down the whole engine and rebuild it. And so, and then he was able to just take that old engine and he can go have somebody rebuild it. And
okay. So resell it or do whatever he wants to with it. That kind of thing.
So with something like that, when you're putting a new engine in there, how is that done in terms of procedure? So like when it comes to a factory, say engine swap, you guys have full factory specs, torque spec, this how it goes down. When it comes to customer bringing an engine put in, do you just go, okay, this bolt goes here, we're going to tighten it until it feels tight? You do research on your own time and find out like what actual torque specs are, or how does that go down?
No, yeah, that's a valid question. So as far as like actual engine components, we would be referencing like the Grand Cherokee SRT is like what that engine would be coming out of technically. And that's what we would use for anything on the engine. And then, as far as like engine mounting or other components or in the engine bay, we're just referencing the same like JK Wrangler database. So there's kind of a like mixed of information, and every time I request parts for something like that, parts is always so thrown off.
Yeah.
They're like, we see this VIN and you're asking for this. Yeah.
Trying to figure out where it actually is supposed to come from and get the right part to begin with.
Yeah.
That can be difficult. Let's dive into the diesel stuff a little bit. And I know you've got a bunch of questions on that.
Yes.
I've always been kind of fascinated with just, the passenger pickup trucks, right? The diesels, even the half tons, but like to do any kind of work on those, the best option is actually to do cab off.
Yeah.
To get to it. And you showed me some pictures of that a while back, and I just thought, damn, I've heard of it, never seen anybody do it.
Yeah.
I find it's pretty interesting. So like, how long does it actually take to take a cab off and out of the way so you can get to the powertrain?
Yeah, depends on how many times you've done it. It used to take me a day and a half, 2 days.
Just to get it up?
Yeah, just to get it up. And now I can do it in half a day probably.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like it's a long laundry list of disconnect this, move it out of the way. And like the first couple times doing it, you're like still, as you're going up, you're like, oh crap, that's getting stretched out, or I need to still disconnect that. Like, but yeah, it feels really intimidating. And then once you get it under the wraps, it's like, okay, it does make more sense. I like specifically with the 6.7 Cummins, like if you ever have to take the camshaft out, it's so long, it's not going to come out. With the radiator and the grill and everything there.
Drilled big enough holes.
Well, and so I was so intimidated one of the first times I had to do that, I was like, well, what if you just took the radiator and the grill off, like, and just took off the front end of the truck? And so I did that. But the amount of, like, bolts for like trim pieces and all of the like body fitment things and whatnot that had to come out just to pull all of that stuff off the front end was such a headache and a nightmare. I was like, it's not worth it.
And then you don't want to lose all that small stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't quite go back the same. Yeah.
So it is actually easier to take the cab up.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
nuts.
Interesting.
The biggest struggle with the cab is there is enough play in the like bolt holes that it's going back into that it can possibly shift slightly in alignment. And so if your vehicle if your chassis that is rolls forwards or backwards at any point, like even slightly, it's enough to mess that alignment up. That's the most difficult part.
So then what do you do to take like extra precautions so that doesn't happen?
They recommend that we put wheel dollies under the vehicle so that if that does happen, you can just easily shift the chassis to where it is. And then taking measurements just from the cab to the frame at like a static point where you know that, you can reference that later.
Yeah.
And... yeah, I don't know. Something happens every time. I'm pretty much that I have to shift it anyways. So yeah, having those measurements and then just knowing that they're going to be the same on both sides.
I'm surprised they don't have anything that is like a laser scan, where you like kind of like on NASCAR, where they set up and scans the whole vehicle, gives a 3D model of it or whatnot. Where a dealership could do the same, so when you take the chassis off, you can exactly know where it goes back on. You know?
Yeah, that sounds like an expensive tool, though.
But dealerships have expensive tools.
That's true. Unfortunately, the dealership that I work at is very tight.
Stingy.
Yes, exactly. And that's not the case for all dealerships. A lot of dealerships, especially ones that are like chains and things like that, they are willing to spend that extra money.
Yeah.
We're kind of a one-off dealership where we just have the one. But it's getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But kind of an alignment rack, really, is kind of what you're thinking of, I feel like. But
something along those lines.
Yeah.
You know.
So if it takes you half a day to pull a cab up and off, how long does it take to put it back?
About the same.
About the same.
Yeah. It's the bulk of whatever you're doing is probably going to be the actual repair once you get the cab off.
Yeah.
What kind of some other than the cam? What are some common things that a customer can expect a whole cab off? Like what kind of work?
Yeah, there not a lot else than that. I mean, really, it's going to be like if you're replacing an engine or like pulling the cam off. Unfortunately, like one of the common issues that we've encountered with those 6.7s is the timing case leaking, and the timing case is behind the cam gear.
Oh, interesting.
So the cam has to come out for the timing case to come off.
Okay.
So that just an oil leak.
Yeah.
Cab off job.
What about with the Hurricane engines?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
They're so like, I mean, it's been like 4 years technically now since they've been on the market, but we really haven't seen many failures with those.
And for our listeners, those are inline 6 cylinders, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Twin turbo.
Gas powered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
yeah.
see the V8s come in at all then?
Sure, like the 5.7 or the 6.4 or
would those require a whole cab off? Like say if you have to do heads or anything?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much just the diesel stuff. Okay. Our Eco Diesel, the 3 liter, or the Cummins 6.7. Those are really the only ones that are requiring cab off for repairs. And there's probably more things on the Eco Diesel that are like fail points that require cab off at this point than the Cummins, really.
How so? Like, what's common failure on those engines?
Well, there's one of the EGRs and the turbo are on the backside of the engine underneath the firewall. And it's a nightmare to get to. It's virtually impossible with the cab on. Specifically, there's like a rubber coolant line in the valley of the vehicle, and one of the banjo bolts is under the turbo. So
that sounds fun.
Intake manifold, cab off, like turbo out. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, they put everything together in such tight spaces anymore. It seems like they don't have much choice, it's...
Yeah. And...
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think...
I'm not a designer.
I think engineers
vehicles
just design things in a certain way. So I'm in a different industry, semiconductors. We've had a couple gas lines that were like going through a specific spot. Mm-hmm. And the engineer's like, look, it fits in the 3D model. And you're like, come over to the tool and look at this.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at it and you're going, how am I supposed to get that out? Oh,
with the 3D model.
Yeah. You go, so, they put a new like VCR fitting in the middle of it so you can take it apart in 2 pieces,
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's always the battle, right? Everybody's like, oh, the engineer versus the mechanic. Yeah. Like, they're like at each other's throats.
Well, it would be cool to have that, the engineer that put that clear under the firewall. Mm-hmm. Okay, buddy, come on, let's go fix this.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's maybe
hand him a wrench. Here, you do it.
Yeah. Maybe there's someplace else you can put this.
Right.
What do you think?
And a recent revelation I've had about that age-old battle is like, they have to go through financial department.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And there's financials going, okay, well, like...
We saved 3 cents by putting it there.
Yeah, and we've had to do this for this long, and we've been manufacturing it this way. We have to change our whole manufacturing plant to change that one part.
Let's just say, for example, to get to that one thing behind the firewall would require a window that you can take out and get like a panel to get to that, right?
Access panel.
That then requires a full new stop of production in the production line to say, okay, we got to add an extra step. Well, now we have to do a casting for it.
Those are new model year stuff they put into.
And true.
I mean, they change stuff in model years all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's nuts to think like it adds up.
Oh, it absolutely does.
And you're right, the financial side on that one, and not everyone does think of that,
Yeah.
It's a balance for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's probably times where the engineer was like, oh, it would be more serviceable if it was right here. It's like, well, yeah, but we can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How much do I cost an hour? How much is, the labor to do this job now? What do you mean you can't afford that?
Yeah.
Especially if it's under warranty. I think you're going to pay for it. But whatever. What, in your time at the dealership, like what is the biggest job you've had to do? How long did it take? Thinking.
Yes. Thinking.
Processing.
Is this where we play Jeopardy music?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on whether we're talking about like actual time or time that I'm getting paid for a job. Because, I mean, I feel like most recently I had a customer that wanted to do the conversion from the hydraulic lifters in the Cummins 6.7 to the old style tappets. And because it was like such a new experience for me to install that for somebody, it also involves cab off, pulling the cam out, and pulling the whole engine almost completely apart, and then pressing off the cam gear onto a new cam, like all of these like meticulous points. It was probably like 30 hours or more of labor put into it.
Yeah.
I didn't get paid a full 30 hours of labor put into that, but that was a pretty extensive job. But I've probably put a lot of hours into some electrical diagnosis jobs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the most memorable job then?
I had a 67 Power Wagon one time come in. And I mean, that truck was really cool. I mean, it was really run down.
Yeah.
But it still was like all original powertrain, and
that's cool.
He was like, I just want it to run again. So whatever that takes. And that was probably the first and last time that our dealership ever takes a vehicle that's that old.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think usually, if you have a vehicle that's that old, you are either somebody who works on cars yourself, and you do that as a passion project in your free time, or you're taking it to like a custom shop, and it just it's really difficult to source parts for something of that age. We're having to go all aftermarket basically. And most people in our dealership are not willing to work on stuff that old. Just the amount of resources available, and I think the skill level is just not really there, because I have like a fundamental understanding of vehicles, and a lot of people they go to the book and they look at a code, and they're just going through a tree or something like that.
Yep.
So that was a really memorable vehicle, just because it was a really neat truck, and it went from not starting to hearing it run, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it ended up just needing a whole new fuel system, but to be expected for a vehicle that's been probably sitting under a tree for who knows how many years. And actually, another really memorable job was that 6.4 Wrangler that I was talking about. He had the mounting point for his lower control arms. They're brackets that are a part of the frame. They ripped off.
Oh.
Yeah.
How?
He was probably rock crawling or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you can actually buy new brackets for that.
Yeah.
But I had to fully fabricate the new brackets onto the frame. And that was not something that I'd ever done before, but there was nobody else who was willing to take that project on. So I said, okay, I'll figure it out. And he took it rock crawling the very next day. I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, I felt pretty good about it. I took it on countless test drives and made sure it was good to go, and it was all in alignment and everything. And I was like, yeah, let's have him come back in 100 miles or something, check, make sure all of it looks good and it's still torqued down. And he came back. He was like, yeah, it held up great. I just took it rock crawling the day after. I'm like, wow.
Trusting.
Yeah.
Send it.
Test it out. Yeah, exactly. Just run it. Take it out and run it. That's
so
awesome.
Back to the what was it, a 67 Power Wagon?
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of stuff in there that's a lost art to work on. I mean, potentially it's still got points.
It's distributor for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was a mechanical fuel pump too on it. And we ended up just switching to a lift pump from the engine bay, because customer wasn't really interested in refurbishing that part, but that's not really something I've ever worked on, and would have been something that I would have had to figure out. Lost art, like you're saying. But I mean, when it comes to vehicles that are that old, you just have to have an understanding of how these systems are actually operating to know what you need to attack. What's your approach when you're facing an issue with these systems? And it comes from a logic of understanding of the vehicle, not just a code and following a diagnostic tree.
Yeah. It's definitely different in diagnosis. The thing I liked about working on my 64 Ford, There's a ton of room under the hood.
Yeah.
And
right.
it's simple. Right?
Yeah.
It's a lost art, but like
in reality, things were a lot simpler. They were less reliant on a bunch of electronics to tell the systems how to.
There's no computer.
Yeah.
It just runs.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't.
Or it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuel, air, and spark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically.
So, Brad, I had a question that's been bugging me all day. So, because people are buying newer cars and vehicles and trucks, okay, all of them got newer emissions and more electronics. How many people are you actually seeing buying these and making projects out of them? I mean, can they even, or are they really restricted now because of, modules here, and it says, oh, now it's the whole thing shut down if you mess with this?
Yeah, that's a really valid question. I feel like the biggest restriction that I'm seeing in like new engines and new vehicles becoming project cars is they're all small displacement with a supercharger or a turbocharger, and all of these like simple or like plug and play almost upgrades that you could have easily done to boost these engines' horsepower like out of the gate, they're already on the vehicle. And so the like amount of modifications that you can do is just kind of dwindling, and then the support isn't really there for it. I mean, the biggest things that come into play now are like intercoolers and tunes, like it's just not quite as fun, but I still see that there's like potential for those things to be happening. I mean, I know that Mopar really wants people to make a project out of their Hurricane engine. They're actually selling it as a crate engine for, depending on which output, either $11,000 or $13,000, which for a brand,
that's not bad.
No,
that's really good
for a brand new engine that's dual turbocharged. Like that's pretty cool.
I think it makes the higher end one makes what, 600 horses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes with a harness, I'm told.
Oh, wow.
But so the idea with them having such a accessible price point is they're like, take it, make it into a project. We want to see what you can do with it.
Yeah. Be the beta testers for us. We'll take out the info.
That's promoting the brand too. Of course they want that. And I think that's getting lost a little bit with some of the manufacturers because like you said, motors are getting smaller and they're just turboing to, they're cutting cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
But I don't think those motors are going to last as long. I know that Chevy's having a hell of a time with their stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everybody's making tiny little motors, 2.7,
So
3.3.
Are they cutting costs or are they trying to cut fuel consumption?
Oh, it's both.
Emissions.
There's emissions, EPA stuff for sure.
Yeah. Because like adding the turbo or adding the supercharger doesn't
Way cheaper
necessarily
than a
make
V8.
it. Does it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Way cheaper than a 8-cylinder block.
I don't think so. I think it's more,
I think it is.
I think it's more complex, but the fact is they get emission tax credits back.
Oh, that too.
That's a
Absolutely.
huge thing, and that's what offsets it from like a just say.
Yeah, but wherever they're mass producing their turbos,
Yeah.
okay, those parts are super cheap for them.
Yeah.
When
When you get the scale of economy at such a high level, then
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I guess it would be different than you or I running down to get a single turbo.
Oh, absolutely.
For whatever. Right?
Yeah. We're not paying the same price they
Yeah.
are. That's pennies on the dollar for them.
Yeah, because that's probably a $5,000 kit if we were to do it.
Yeah, it costs them $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it is down to pennies and tenths of a mile to the gallon
Yes.
too,
Right.
It is.
and it's all averages, which is why we have such a big push for the electric vehicles from every dealer and like manufacturer now too, is because that contributes to their average.
Yeah, hold on. Let me throw up real quick.
I know. Somebody said electric.
We don't have to go there.
No,
I'll be fine.
Please don't.
Is there kind of an era then left for people to work on project cars that still had some more stuff that could be done? Like, for example, the Hellcat era, there was a lot more that could be done to those engines versus like the newer ones because they're so efficient and there's not much you could do other than tune and turbo.
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen. I think there is room for it. I think most of that market right now, for us anyways, is shifted to the diesel and the Wrangler market. I feel like we're not really seeing it in the sports car stuff as much. It's mostly people that like driving diesels and like the enjoyment of a ride. But then also the off-roading community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off-roading, do a lot of people off-road with a diesel? I was just curious because I have no idea.
No, I'm just saying off-road because the Wranglers
Yeah.
are getting a fair amount of
Gotcha.
modification as well. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think, though, in the last early 20s, right, 2010, say, through 2020, there was a big market of still V8 cars and that kind of stuff, some naturally aspirated, plenty of that. I think there's going to be still a big push, a big community that's going to use those cars for modifications and that kind of stuff. And hopefully we can survive this electric revolution bullshit long enough that we can start producing good cars again.
Yeah.
You just never know. I mean, there's definitely going to be a gap, you know? I mean, like my little Bronco, I love driving that little Bronco, but every day I'm behind that, sitting, looking over the hood going, a 5-liter in this thing would be freaking awesome.
Nothing's stopping you from swapping it.
Yeah, until it's, I'll wear this one out first.
When the warranty's out, he'll probably contemplate it.
Yeah.
Contemplating it already. Yeah. So, but, I think it'd be awesome to have a little 5-liter in that thing. And someday it'll probably happen, but
maybe it'll be a plan once the warranty's done.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, and I think, part of it, at least for our brand, like Mopar kind of lost their vision for a little while. We had a CEO who was not, he was from overseas and not in touch with the muscle car community.
American market.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we kind of lost touch with our, supporters and fan base. And
that happens.
but there's talks. It seems like they are listening to people and like are interested in what the people want. And there's talks about the Hemi not being dead after all.
I heard there was a rumor I read an article that it's confirmed, but not, I don't know. Let's just say rumor that it is coming back. And my thought was April Fool's, but this was like 2 days before April 1st.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's all. I haven't heard any official word either. It's all rumors, but I believe it. I just think it's too iconic of an engine for them to just kill it off that easy.
Well, and especially with the current administration loosening up the EPA standards and stuff, that's actually feasibility.
If I can say, I want to say this on air. I think
I don't
Mopar. I think Mopar's biggest thing is they had the V8s and they had the Hellcats. That was their golden goose. And the problem they had moving forward was they did not have anything to replace something so iconic.
Yeah.
And that is like if they bring it back, great. But they're still gonna always look for that. What's the next thing that will replace this?
Well, I think all of the manufacturers have to do that.
I think they should.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right? I mean, the 5.0's been around a long time.
Not really. No.
Yes, it has.
14 years, 15?
It's been around
Longer
since
than
the
that.
fucking 80s, bro.
Yeah, but it was gone for 20 years.
In the middle somewhere?
Was it
from
really?
the 90s. It was gone
I don't
from...
think so.
I don't know. I don't know that to be
I don't think so.
true or not true.
Yeah.
But possible.
Anyway, it's
Grant
been
would know more
around
than I
a
would,
long
so-
time, but it has changed over the years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Hemi's probably done the same thing. The Hemi's been around since what, the 60s? I mean, the theory of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a Honda's a hemispherical motor,
Well, it's-
but whatever.
A lot of
It's kind of like, here's a better thing. It's kind of like the LS motor. Chevy's now switching over to the LT and putting their eggs in the basket on that one. But they didn't just go overnight, we're getting rid of the LS. They still had the LS while the LT was still around,
Yeah.
And
They all
slowly
go in
phase out.
phases.
Yeah. But it's not kind of going like, okay, the LS is done, we're going to start going into 4-cylinder turbos. That would be the biggest uproar if that happened.
Yeah.
But I think they're always looking at what can we do to make it better, and what can we do to make the fuel efficiency better.
Well, and that's all driven by regulation.
Right.
You know, they have to meet a certain
Cafe.
a certain number, right, or set of numbers, and that covers their entire line of vehicles. So if they put out a 1,064 horsepower Corvette,
Yeah.
somewhere back here down the line, all their other makes have to make up for the EPA numbers of that thing.
Right.
So it's an average. It's a great big
Yeah.
numbers game. So any manufacturer is going to have to deal with the same thing, but that's why I say, the regulations are changing again, good or bad, depending on what side of the fence you're on.
That's
For
why
the car
they did
community,
the E-Ray.
it's a good thing. What?
That's why they did the E-Ray.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Offset.
makes more sense now.
Yep.
An offset.
Exactly.
And the Zora is electric as well, or no? I can't remember.
The Zora's not been announced yet, but it's supposed
supposed to be, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's another offsetting, back
Yeah.
and forth. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, but not to talk bad on the Hurricane engine because I mean I've driven the trucks that have the Hurricane engine in them, and oh man, it's a zippy engine.
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's quiet, and I mean for 4 years we haven't seen any repeat failures. The only thing that we've seen so far is an issue with the thermostat.
Okay.
So it's
That's pretty mild.
yeah.
What's the displacement of that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think no, this is not.
Oh, the displacement.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking torque. No, it's a 3-liter.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Six cylinder.
3-liter inline six, and it's twin turboed.
Yeah.
There's two different outputs though. There's a standard and a high.
You get one of those to fall off the truck somewhere. We'll stuff it into a boat and see what happens.
Yeah. I will say the one thing that got me kind of. I won't say I'm not fully on board with the Hurricane because I do like V8s, but I will say the one thing that made me give the possibility to be like, this could be a good engine is because look at all the other great straight sixes in the past.
Yeah.
Especially like GTRs in the Skylines.
Yeah, there's
earlier
nothing wrong with a good straight
You make
six.
1,200, 1,500 horses out of those engines of the RB22.
Ford Barra motor.
Exactly.
I think it was only a 3-liter too.
Or even just the XJs with the 4-liter back in the day. I mean,
Exactly.
it wasn't a zippy engine, but it was
reliable.
solid. It was reliable. Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
They were actually pretty quick. And the
4
top,
liter's not too bad.
yeah, the top end, the top speed was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
It was accessible, and
Yeah.
and you could easily do things to it to make it more fast and more fun too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the diesel side of things, what would you like to see a diesel motor put into, project car wise?
My car.
Your car?
It sounded like a
You
diesel
got the
coming
sticker
in.
on the back of it.
I know it's ticking so bad.
Yeah, it's pretty noisy.
You know, mechanic's car is always in the worst shape. Doesn't want to work on his own stuff. Knows how far he can put it off.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's fine. It'll
Yeah.
get me to work still.
Yeah. No, I have seriously debated the Cummins 4BT, just trying to get one of those and putting them in that
Really?
thing. Yeah.
That would be
It'd be funny.
be cool.
It'd all just be for, the joke of it, really, because it's like it's a Dodge Journey. It's like it's like a mom's soccer car, basically,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
coming down the road with a big smokestack sticking out of the hood, just blowing smoke.
Oh, make every soccer mom jealous.
Yeah.
they wouldn't have a freaking idea what that was.
Something's wrong with that car.
although if a dude saw it whistling down the road,
Yeah.
That would be a different story.
oh, now wait a minute here, what's that?
Yeah.
For sure. I think a diesel. I don't know anything about them, honestly, but I think there's a lot of potential for good projects in there.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to see it in like a mid '80s square body Chevy pickup truck, one that
yeah.
came with a gas motor, typically a 350, right?
Yeah.
And put a diesel in it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a really cool ride.
Yeah.
Standard cab.
I want to know if I could pick your brain on diesel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want your thoughts on the top Cummins engines.
Yeah.
The 12 valve, the 24 valve, and then the 6.7.
Yeah.
What are some positive and negatives on each of those engines, and that people who want to put them into a swap, what they can expect out of that?
Oh, man.
You asked a lot of questions right there.
I know.
Yeah.
Start with one.
Well, so I just want to say I love the 5.9. It's
Okay.
like it's an amazing engine. And what I was reading about it the other day actually is that they did not design it for consumer vehicles. It was they did not know that it was going to be put in trucks for the consumer to purchase. So it was designed as a commercial vehicle to be serviced as a commercial vehicle. So it's built to last.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like solid iron and forged pistons, and like it's an amazing motor, and I just love the sound of them, and you know.
I got this story on that. Real
Okay,
quick.
okay.
So
Hold on, those come in a 12 or 24 valve too. The 5.9 does.
Yeah.
correct. So we've got a 12 valve in a lot of our cranes that work.
Yeah.
We have an RT 55-ton crane. I was working on it today. Just to give you an idea of how strong those 12 valves are, that crane has been ran at some point. It was like probably 8 years ago. Same motor for 30 minutes with no oil in it, and it's still running. Okay, it had no coolant in it. We just found out for the last like couple months because guys would top it off, but 9 gallons, 11 gallons of no coolant in the system and still running while it's like pinged off, still fine, not ticking or anything. And that's from 1999 to now, nonstop running crane. I don't know, 10,000 plus hours plus on that thing, still going strong.
Wow.
Yeah, like
That is
those
a true
motors
testament.
are insanely built.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can't really speak to the 12 valve. I mean, I have nothing bad to say. The worst part was the lift pump. You had to replace those all the time. But they insanely hold value too.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. You can't get a Cummins for under 20K basically. It doesn't matter what year it was. But I'm a believer that the product is really solid and they continued, to produce a good product that lasts. And I think there have been some shifts in the money saving generation with the 6.7, but even still the failures are accessible and repairable. And
You think it's still in the same category as the original, like the 5.9s, or do you think it's a good motor, but it could be better?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is emissions.
Yeah.
Emissions are destroying diesel emissions.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So if you stripped all that away, then yeah, it's just as solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the biggest failure you've got with all your diesels is just emissions?
Mostly with the EcoDiesel, I think. But the 6.7, yeah, we've had issues with the grid heaters and with lifters, and those have been the biggest issues. But even those aren't that common.
Okay. Would you agree when it comes to Cummins motors? Because I hear this all the time that they're not broken in until they get to 200,000 miles. Do you think that's real, or do you think that's just a myth?
I think that's something that people just say because it's it's funny, It's because a diesel, ultimately, the odometer doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's more about how serviced has the engine been.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really buy into that it's just broken in, but I think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard stories where guys are saying they don't start getting decent fuel mileage out of them until they hit at least 35,000.
Okay.
So I don't know how
attest to
true
that,
I don't know
yeah.
how true that is, but I have heard that it takes about 30,000 miles before they get to their fuel sweet spot, I guess.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll have to inquire with the diesel owners that I know.
No idea. So I know, Grant, you had some questions earlier that maybe you didn't put up here. So now's your chance.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't go too deep into diesel.
Okay.
We got more of that coming.
Oh, okay.
Do we?
Yeah.
I was unaware.
Oh.
All right. So, the squirrels are turning in Grant's head.
Yeah.
I'm going to roll out our next car build challenge. Okay.
Okay.
Did you read it already?
I
Bill
did,
challenge?
I did not.
Oh.
Oh, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
I
figured there'd be a lot of rules to it.
I read the title. Oh
There
yeah,
is.
they're Grant rules.
They're Grant rules.
So
I have designed this challenge to ruin Grant. No, I'm just kidding.
do you want to
just
inform Brad and our listeners what the car challenge is?
That's what I'm about to do.
Well, the concept of it.
That's what I'm about to
That's
do.
what he's about to do.
Yes. So if you have not paid attention to previous episodes,
Which Grant hasn't a part.
Oh,
yeah, Grant doesn't know.
If you did, I would know because I get emails all the time and messages about the builds I've done.
Yes. Okay. So we challenge each other to build a certain vehicle within certain constraints and dollar amount, basically off of Marketplace, just to see if we can do it. and see what it turns out. Now, Grants are always hideous and ridiculous.
But they're functional and they're elegant. And
functional is a question mark.
Yeah, the first one was maybe not functional.
I think the second one was not functional.
Apparently, you can LS swap a Ford, but you can't Ford swap an LS.
No,
Vice
you
versa.
can't. You cannot.
I mean, I'm a little bit of a purist. I wouldn't go either way, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep, some people won't.
The internet's very loud on that.
So this one is going to be the ultimate road trip cruiser. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the car that you would go on a long road trip with at least 3 of your friends. So you got to have backseat capabilities.
Comfort is key.
Comfort is key. Entertainment systems are a must, and I know Grant is going to like that.
Yes.
The more feature and creature comforts you have, the better.
Okay.
Car must have started as a project. You can't just buy it and drive it. You can't just buy a new car. Okay? It can't it cannot already be done.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Passenger view and comfort is a plus. Keep that in mind when choosing your car. So, your passengers from the back seat, you don't want them locked in a rape van. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Looks count. So your finished product needs to be impressive. Okay. So design and engineering, D&E.
Okay.
It's got to be reliable. Grant.
I have done nothing but reliability on my projects.
Lies. All lies. Maintenance dollars count in your project.
Okay.
All right. Cars can be purchased from anywhere in the country. This is something we didn't specify before, but kind of thought we should. But we'll go a flat rate, $1,800 shipping. So if you buy a car from the other side of the country, it's an extra $1,800 on your budget.
Okay.
To ship it.
But if you buy it from over here, you don't get the extra.
That depends.
Okay.
If it's over here, define over here.
Local, say within 8-hour drive.
So let's say
you could go
400 miles.
Washington. All right. Yeah, sure. 400 miles.
That's
work?
fine.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I mean,
One way, not round trip, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Okay.
You can shop from anywhere you want. Bring a trailer, Marketplace, Craigslist, whatever. Stipulation is you have to copy your ad into something that we can see. I don't want any of them as handwritten notes bullshit that you were doing before. I want to see this stuff.
Okay.
You actually have to do this.
Okay.
All right. As always, labor for mechanical doesn't count for your build because it's assumed that you're doing your own labor. However, this challenge, labor for paint, does count. It's $5,000. Now that's cheap. I understand that's cheap,
Okay.
but we're going to put a $5,000 price tag on your paint.
That includes the red paint, the green paint, the yellow paint.
It
correct?
does not. The paint is
paint
extra.
is separate.
You have to buy that.
I have to buy that. Okay. And the vinyl decals, like we talked last time.
So
Your IRCA stickers don't count.
So-
Jurassic
that.
Park, but
Shut up.
let me ask a quick question.
Yep.
Does that come off the total?
What do you mean?
The labor for the paint, does that come off the total or is that added?
The $5,000 for labor is just labor. So your paint cost is extra.
Okay.
okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
You got to include photos of all your projects, screenshots of the prices.
Okay.
No more of this handwritten bullshit.
Okay. I had links on everything.
So like the way we did them last time, you and I did.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Fair.
Okay. All in cost $25,000.
Now, hang on.
Okay. This is what I was asking. Does the 5,000 come off of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So does the $1,800 shipping.
So we don't have to
Okay.
paint it if we don't want to. We don't have to paint it if we don't want to.
Looks count.
Okay.
D&E.
Okay. Second question is, are we including the price we didn't use from last challenge onto this?
You get to.
So
I get an extra $50
I get 3,000.
and he gets $5.
Yes, he does.
You in, Brad?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. All right, good.
It'd be fun.
Good. So we're gonna run this one for several weeks. We'll reconvene you on this project, say 3 weeks from now.
Okay.
Okay. So then we'll read out what we got. We'll compare notes and we'll pick on Grant.
Okay.
His is always some Jurassic Park something or other.
Yeah, if you do Jurassic Park this time,
Oh no, I've
that broom is going to go over the top of your head.
I've got a few ideas. I'm trying to think if I want to include a tank or not.
Long trips, man.
Long trips.
Who cares? You could be in a tank in a long
Comfort
trip.
is key.
You should have
Remember the
added
rules.
it should have some sort of fuel mileage.
I was trying to figure out some way I could deduct Grant's $5,000 and not have to deduct it off of mine.
Yeah.
I couldn't come up with a creative solution to that.
I've got so many ideas on this.
So I'm basically starting at a deficit.
I got a pretty dope idea.
I
actually.
need
So
to-
are you, Brad? You only get 25.
Yeah.
I need to know, our listeners need to know, are we doing a contest again where if they submit, we're going to pick the top one?
I'll play along.
Okay.
We only have one of those so far, correct?
Okay.
I think Jimmy Galloway should join. I know
Yeah.
you're listening, Jimmy, so jump in on it.
I've had, so far, I had multiple people, more than I can put in my hands, reach out to us on the challenge, but then they're like, why'd you
Email.
read out? Build the challenge. Like, I don't know. I'm like, build the challenge. You already talking about it.
Do it. Send it to us.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Let's hear it. Email us at untitledpowerproject@gmail.com
Or call Grant.
or call me.
Call Grant. No, email it. If Grant gets it in between there, we won't understand what's happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Did you come up with any questions, or were you too sidetracked?
Sidetrack, but
Okay.
we're keeping that for the next episode?
What?
Yes? No? Okay.
I don't know.
What?
If you got a question, bring it. Now's the time.
Yeah. No, we got more coming next episode.
Oh, we got more coming next episode?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Whoa, dropping
My
off.
question might actually be up there already.
Okay. I wanted to know, Brad, being in a dealership, what's kind of the most unique tool that you see that the market doesn't have availability to?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I know.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Okay.
Air conditioning coolant refill station.
Oh gosh, I mean that is a really valid answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that topic, it's like a lot of people don't realize that you basically can't buy refrigerant at an auto shop store that doesn't have stop leak in it.
Right.
And that's going to wreck your system. And nobody's going to want to work on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
interesting.
take that into account
Yeah.
if you try to buy one of those bottles to fill your car.
So
with
the best thing
refrigerant.
is to go to an actual body shop or auto shop and have them recharge it.
Yeah.
They're going to
well,
evacuate it and then put new stuff in.
yeah. And I mean, they are supposed to be sealed systems. So if it's not working, you probably have a leak and it should
Yes.
be addressed.
That's the hard part.
That's the ticket. Yeah.
But maybe the leak's slow enough you can get through one more summer,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Gosh, yeah. I mean, nothing that the market doesn't have access to. It's just all stuff that's really expensive. You know, it's like,
I don't know. Somebody I know built a tool.
Me?
Yeah. No, not you.
what, me? Oh, my CAN network tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it's something that somebody with enough passion could do.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I took on this little passion project where I used an Arduino with a little microchip for communicating with CAN, controller area networks. It's how modern vehicles communicate, and basically to decrypt what the messages are and be able to receive and send. My idea was to be able to say you had a broken door lock switch or something, but you already had the data or the CAN message available, so you could just send it over the network on the vehicle, and the door is actually locked. So you know, oh, okay, everything is in place that should be able to like get those doors to lock. It's just the switch, and it'd be an easier way to kind of rule out some possibilities of what's going wrong in that system.
Okay.
It's still got its bugs because I'm struggling with you're battling actual messages that are being sent on the network with fake ones that you're inserting into there, and the vehicle doesn't like that very much. So, you know, we have scan tools that that's something that the market doesn't have access to necessarily, because we can communicate with each module individually and actuate certain things, but we're also limited in like those things, even just as technicians, and what the engineers have access to on their side of things. So I wanted to be able to take that a step further and really just like nerd out on it, essentially. So it's kind of been an ongoing passion project, just trying to understand more about how the networks are communicating and how I could potentially finagle that or make it do what I want.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So the other thing I wanted to ask is, being in a dealership, what would you recommend to a new mechanic who wants to get into the industry? Do you recommend them
Turn and run.
do you recommend like going to a mom and pop shop or jumping into a dealership? What are some of the hurdles they're going to have to overcome? What are some of the things that makes it easier being in a dealership?
Sure. Yeah. I hear that turn and run so often.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a deterrent to get people who aren't really passionate about it out of the industry, but it's also probably a lot of just bitter people who just have no drive in life to actually get the things that they want and never took the steps to get to something that they actually like doing.
I think mostly it's a bitter thing. Like, people have been turned off by the industry or whatever, and they just think it's that way no matter where you're at or who you are, which is not true.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that there's a huge advantage with the dealership in today's day and age because of the education that's available. Because I just started doing DIY, and then I jumped into working on tractors and heavy duty diesel with little experience, and was just taught by people. But then going to the dealership, and I was given schooling through the dealership. It's brand specific, but a lot of it does apply across the board. And so, there used to be a time where you had to have experience or go to get your like ASE certification or go to some trade school or something like that. And there's such a need for mechanics now that that's not really the case anymore. And there are people that are willing to train you up. And I do think that the dealership is a really good way to get your hands dirty.
Do they pay you during like training time then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's definitely changed. When I used to work as a tech, and I went to school for it.
Yeah.
That was all on your own time. Oh. It was either, you're not working, you're at your stall, start reading the book, or be home. You need to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating, because you're like, well, I should be actually wrenching. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know that right now.
I mean, they have. I think that the brand has like really recognized just like the importance of having their techs be educated. And they're even starting to crack down to the point of they're trying to figure out a way to track if you have enough return vehicles under warranty under the same concern, they're going to send you back to school for that, like whatever category that repair falls into. So they want you there, and they provide the dealership with incentives to get you into school. And
what does that look like? Is it an actual school they send to you? You're gone for a week? Is it like an online class you're taking? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's all different. We have 3 different categories. We have web-based trainings, virtual classroom online, so it's like a Zoom class, and then there's in-person trainings. So we do have a training center facility out in Tualatin that we go to.
Nice.
A lot of techs actually travel for their training. That's not something that we as a dealership do anymore. One person has to ruin it for everybody, but
yeah.
So if you're able to travel, you have more access to classes quicker as they're being offered. But the biggest restriction is just the availability of the offerings.
What about in terms of tooling and stuff? Like, if it's a new mechanic, do you think if they want to do it, take the investment, buy the tools, jump in, go for it? Or do you think buy a limited amount of tools to get some jobs done and buy as many as you need to while you're working on the job to get when he's done?
I think the second mindset is the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you figure out it's not for you, don't get in too deep.
Yeah.
But a lot, especially because you're probably just going to end up changing oil for a while,
Yeah.
and you won't necessarily. You'll probably need a ratchet and a 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's good to just kind of build it as you go. And I can't speak to every shop, but we're all pretty willing to loan things to other people. So,
do you find ever need any more for SAE kind of tools, or is everything like when I was working? Everything was metric. To be fair, it was European, but
not really. Yeah, it's pretty much all metric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. Hamster brain, kind of just going.
Yeah, I got one. You touched on the industry needs more mechanics. So how is that going? Like, is it pretty shallow field? Do you have a lot of turnover? What's that look like?
No, we've actually been pretty stable. We don't really have anybody leaving, which is crazy. But I think that just what is out there who's looking for work isn't like super. There's not a lot of people applying for these positions. And so, we have a couple less than favorable techs that maybe shouldn't be there anymore. But the people that are out there to replace them, it's slim pickings.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
understandable.
Back in my day,
don't make yourself look old.
A lot of the high schools had the shop programs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them don't, but there still are a few of them in the area that do. You guys, have you ever thought about, going to one of those high schools that does have it?
Yeah, we do have a school that we partner with, and we've gotten a couple kids out of that have actually done pretty well. And then, there's actually a Mopar CAP program. It's career automotive program where we can partnership with them that while somebody's going to school, they can also come and work for us. I don't have a lot of information on that, but I know a couple techs who have been through the whole program and it really excelled from going through that schooling experience. But there's just not a lot of schools that are doing it, and the ones that are probably don't have a huge interest in it. But budget cuts, schools not doing that so much.
Do you see anybody coming out of the tech schools and that kind of stuff?
No,
not really.
No.
Are tech schools even there anymore for automotive?
I don't know. I know Wyotech shut down a lot of their campuses,
Yeah.
and I know what's the other one? Not SAE.
It's some sort of acronym, and I can't think of it either at the
it's
moment.
Like 3 letters.
Which is kind of crazy because the cars haven't gone away. They've gotten harder to work on, so we need more qualified techs, but people don't want those jobs.
No, and it's because of the pay. It's the way that we're being paid. And, there definitely needs to be an industry shift. But
that's one thing I was going to ask you is someone starting out in the tech industry, they're going to be paid either flat rate or hourly and vice versa. What are some struggles, benefits, and negatives you could see to both of them? And would you recommend someone that's just starting out and when they should switch to either or?
Yeah, that's a great question. Flat rate, of course, the struggle is you can only make as much money as your dealership is making. And the beginning of this year was slow for all dealerships.
Oh, yeah.
Through February, which it's pretty standard after the holidays to get slow. It's not a great season, but February usually tends to pick up, and this year was definitely a struggle.
Yeah.
So the benefit to being something like a hybrid or hourly pay scale is not having to worry about the inconsistencies or being at the will of the dealer.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they aren't willing to pay you as much doing that because they are not going to make as much money.
Yep.
And you technically don't have the drive to work as hard. You could do 30 hours worth of jobs or something and still get paid the same amount. So why put the hustle in?
Yeah.
You know? So I kind of see both sides of the argument of as mechanics, we're valuable and we need to be paid fairly, but also it's okay, but how do we get you to like do your job efficiently and like actually produce for us as a company.
Yeah.
So
I remember when I worked as a tech, I was paid flat rate, and it was tough because it was during the winter, during the slower time, but still, I'd be putting in 100 hours a week, being there and working, but only paid for 50 hours.
yeah.
So a car would leave, and I'd be there. I'm like, okay, I'm cleaning, sweeping my bay, making sure everything's polished. I'm organizing anything I can to keep busy, but it's nuts because you're not getting paid for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another struggle too, is it's like I have to maintain my own space and tools and organization and all of that stuff. And I'm not getting paid for that. So I have to find time to do that in a way that I can still be efficient and make money.
Yeah. Do you feel like with people that are paying dealership prices, because to be fair, dealerships typically are more expensive than a mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
That the standard for repairs should be always higher than the mom and pop shop.
I think it should.
Do you think it is?
No.
Okay.
It probably depends on where you go.
Yeah.
But it also probably depends on what the repair is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether that mom and pop shop specializes in whatever you're having done, or if it's something they've never seen before. I mean, quality could go up and down just in that regard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to go back to electronics too, if it's like a really complicated system, it might take the mom and pop shop like twice as long to figure it out and get it done. So, I mean, yes, I do feel like it would be great if the dealerships could like justify the pricing, but I think it goes back to, there's a huge shift in who is in the industry and how long they've been there. It's a lot of really young people in the dealership that I work at. So
that's good. At least it's young and next generation going through. There's some where they're just old and backs are killing them and they're getting done, and no one can replace the knowledge that they've got into it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that knowledge is also super valuable too.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of need a mix of both and people to share the knowledge with.
Do you think there's some knowledge that's not worth holding on to? I should specify that. Like, for example, carburetors aren't really worked on, for example.
Yeah.
But do you think a good mechanic should know that and know it by heart? Or just be like dabbling in that, like obsolete kind of techniques and technology. Should they have a capacity of that, or be like focus on the new stuff?
So,
go ahead.
Let me answer that.
Okay.
So, at a dealership,
none
of those guys probably need to understand how a carburetor works.
Not unless you're getting that 1967 Power Wagon or what.
Now, if you work as a mechanic at a shop that specializes in
older vehicles.
Something along older vehicles or something along the lines of drag racing or something like that.
Yeah.
You probably should have a really good grasp on how to tune a carburetor.
I guess what I was going with that is we've got a lot of old timers that are in the industry, and that knowledge is being carried with them. And there's stuff that is good to have that. But if they worked in their highlight in the 80s and 70s, when it was the beginning of, fuel injection and catalytic converters start coming out and stuff, is it better than, okay, we've got new blood, they're focused only on, ECU modules and emissions.
10 years and newer.
Yeah.
I'll cut in. I think that I think it goes back to what I was saying about looking at a code and going through a diagnostic tree versus actually having an understanding of how these systems work. And I think the catalytic converters brings up a valuable topic of like, there was a tech that was really struggling over a P0420. It's a really common, like most of the time it's like you need to replace the cats.
Yeah.
He was struggling to figure out what was going on, and because I have an understanding of why this code is being triggered and what like the system is doing and looking at, I was able to go in there and look at that cat and go, oh, it's like aftermarket, it's not. And I just stuck a borescope in there, and there literally was no metal inside of there filtering it out. So I was able to easily understand like that's what the problem is. Mm-hmm. And so I think that those old timers have a different type of knowledge where they're like have a deep understanding of how these cars work, because it was before you really had all these electronics coming into play that are diagnosing the problem for you, or at least starting the diagnosis. And same thing with like O2 sensors. And I had another vehicle that came my way from another tech that was struggling on it because he had just replaced this O2 sensor and it was still throwing the same code. And he was like, I checked all the wiring. It looks good. I don't understand. I went home that night and I read up all about how O2 sensors work and figured out how to perform tests on the O2 sensor and find out that the brand new one was bad out of the bag. Mm-hmm. And so... yeah, it's just about a deeper understanding that is not really happening with this new wave because it's more systematic. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how can we like train these techs to be the best? And it's not necessarily people that are doing it because they love doing it.
Yeah.
They don't have that deeper understanding and don't really strive for it. Like,
yeah.
It's just read the computer. It says replace this. I replaced it. Now what?
Yeah.
How come it's still not working?
They're trying to train monkeys to turn wrenches.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding what the system is looking for, how the system works, point A to point B, or D and E and F, they're just like, I don't know. I replaced this. We have the same problem in other mechanical industries.
Yep. And it's the general generation. It's the modern mindset. And I think there's aspects of that are good. It's like, yeah, it is just a job, and we have to have lives outside of work. But at the same time, having a good work ethic and pride in what you do is like still really important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you'll be that much better of a mechanic. And maybe that's not the important part to some people. I have to realize that too.
Yeah.
Actually understanding what you're working on and how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It makes troubleshooting a lot easier if you know how it's supposed to work and what it's looking for. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on just a little bit. Last question of the day.
Okay.
What 3 cars would you really like? Don't say it.
Okay.
Don't say it.
Okay.
What 3 vehicles
there you go.
would you really like to drive someday?
There you go.
Oh, man. That is such a good question.
See, I didn't prep you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably should have come prepared for that one at least.
Yeah, exactly. And as he thinks about that,
If you say PT Cruiser, I swear.
Well, I've already driven that one.
okay. I'll cut out the silence.
Okay.
That's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard.
We've had some really interesting answers, though.
Mm-hmm.
Very much.
Yeah, I mean, I would really only want to drive unique cars. Like, I saw that there's been a couple of them, but they did, like, chassis and body swaps with the Power Wagon. So it was, like, an old, like, 50s Power Wagon put over the top of, like, a 6.7 Cummins, like, chassis and all the interior and stuff was swapped out. I'm like, that'd be really cool.
Have you seen... J-Lon did a video on it. It was a Power Wagon, and this was done in the 60s, but it was swapped with a Daytona Ferrari V12 engine. And it was like a very famous truck that was driven in what's it called? Not Shasta, Tahoe. One of the guys who owned the casinos up there drove this, and that was the thing, because he wanted to have something that he can drive from like Sacramento up to Tahoe and still go through the snow and stuff and do it like 160 miles an hour. I'll send you the video later. It is fantastic of like how deep they go into this truck and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But they went more than just the engine swap, like the interior is done and everything else, because he was one that luxurious, but he just imagine Dodge mixed with a Ferrari.
I can't. Yeah. That's really rad, though.
Right?
I love weird projects like that,
Yeah.
I mean, that actually makes me think of the Viper that was lifted that I saw as an online project. Did you guys see that one?
I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, they lifted it up and put mud tires on it.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But that actually is a good segue because a Viper would be. I've gotten to like kind of sit in a couple, and I had to like change a battery on one. But I would love to.
You should see your dad's face right now, listeners. He's like, "What?"
No, I would love to take one for a drive. It's since I was a kid, that's been like a dream vehicle for me. Is the Viper? It's
That's
just like
probably
Rob, you need to
doable.
fix that.
I don't have a Viper
But
Why are
we
you looking
know
at me?
people.
because you
just
have a
has an
Viper.
I have a
engine.
Viper. I'm sorry. I forgot to put you in that thing.
all right, let's do it.
What's your favorite gen?
Oh gosh, probably Gen 2.
Gen 2?
Yeah,
Right on.
yeah.
Just traditional, or do you want to have like the ACR white with blue stripes?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Very
All done up.
Okay, there's one.
Okay.
Oh, the Power Wagon was the other one.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to. It's a unique car, but I'd like to be able to drive it. I think
All right.
that's a really cool project.
Yeah.
So 2. Gosh.
I'm going to break the silence because I got a question to ask
Do
you.
it.
Okay.
Have you ever driven one of those Dodge Rams with the SRT 10V10
I have not.
Viper motor trucks?
No, I've seen a couple on the road, but I've never had any in for service or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, I would probably say some sort of SRT 10 or something, but like I've gotten to drive a Durango Hellcat, a Challenger Hellcat, so I've like actually gotten to drive those.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
how with the Hellcat, and you've driven multiple ones with different Hellcat engines,
yeah.
how different is it driving wise? Like the engine has instant torque and blah blah, but is it just do they feel it all the same, or is it like they're completely different animals per vehicle?
I think they're just different in how they like handle in like turning or accelerate. Like, yeah, just handling is really it. I
Yeah.
feel like the acceleration feels really similar. I think it's probably down to, really small numbers at the end of the day at the drag strip or something like that
Yeah.
you're not really noticing on a like day-to-day driving experience.
Yeah, but let's just say if like a person has a experience in say a Charger Hellcat,
Yeah.
and they jump into a Durango, it should be pretty easy to
Yeah,
do for
they're
that
both
one.
tanks. They weigh the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
know?
yeah. One's just a little higher off the ground.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that they're very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got one more on the list you haven't listed. Did you ever have a poster car on your wall that you always had up? It's probably Pamela Anderson. I understand that. But that's not a vehicle.
Oh man, I've
He's
always
too young for
thought
Pamela Lindsay Lohan or something.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, here we go. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
1 second. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while he's looking that up, I'm just going to preface this.
Okay.
We were going to do project cars, but we're running a little long. We'll push those into the next
For
episode.
next week. Okay.
Yeah.
The Ferrari F40. That's what it is.
There's the one.
Yeah.
Father like son.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Those body styles are so cool.
So good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
A beast of a car to try and drive, but man,
Yeah.
I'd like to try it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Right on. All right, Brad, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing all your insights for
Yeah.
running through all the dealership ins and outs. I think it's really cool. It's super interesting. Hopefully our listeners got something out of it too.
Yay.
If nothing else, just some strange entertainment.
Yeah. Definitely.
We are going to do a part 2 for next week, so tune in then. And it'll be a little less about the dealership stuff and just more about car projects and that kind of stuff. So thanks for listening. Again, hit follow on all the social stuff. The Facebook and Instagram is pretty much only ones we use. Follow the podcast and hit us up if you got a cool project. Want to hear about it?
If you'd like to be on the show or got a cool project, email us at untitledcarproject@gmail.com.
Yes, and hopefully he did not say that too fast. And you
Or
understood
call
what he said.
him directly.
Call Grant. Hit us up. I'll give you his number. I'm not kidding. All right, thanks everybody. Take care.
All right, later.